Tennessee, is it a tax lien or a tax deed state? Let's get into that. Tennessee, is it a lien state or a deed state? Let's get right into this. Tennessee is a deed state that has a redemption period. So it's a little bit of both. Real basic, okay? Tennessee is paying a 10% penalty with a 1-year redemption period. The beautiful thing about Tennessee is you've got these sparsely populated areas around there that you're gonna find some gems. I've helped some people do some great deals in Tennessee. The most important thing when looking at a tax deed state is find out what your rights are. So in Tennessee, do you have any legal rights to the property during the redemption period? And the answer is no. If they redeem within that 1 year, they've got to pay your money back plus 10%. Okay, now I want you to understand something. This is a rule of thumb. Whenever you're looking at a tax deed state and you go to the sale, and let's just use a hypothetical situation. Let's say it's a $200,000 property with $10,000 in back taxes. Okay, so I bid on this property, and let's say I bid it up to $50,000. It's got a 1-year redemption period, paying 10%. They're not gonna redeem. Okay, now again, can they? Absolutely. The chances are slim and none, as they say in Tennessee. In other words, Slim just left town. Okay, if they didn't pay $10,000 in taxes, why would they pay $50,000 plus another $5,000 penalty on top of that? So if they couldn't pay 10, they're not going to be able to pay 50. There's that fact alone. One of the things you want to look at when you buy a tax deed in any kind of redeemable deed state, you got to look at the rules. Do I have access to that property? So in my opinion, if there's nobody in the property at all, okay, and this has happened on multiple times, do I want to protect my asset? So I will even sometimes go as far as, I've had several properties that I've got where the owners were deceased. And I'm like, okay, they're deceased, they're not going to redeem them. And if they do, I guess we'll have a whole new YouTube channel of dead people redeeming, right? So it's not going to happen. So I knew this wasn't going to happen. So number one thing I did was secure the property. I changed the locks on the door, cleaned up the property, and made sure I was starting to protect my asset. And somebody says, well, wait a second, you might not get that money back. Again, you've got to check the rules. Some of the states out there, including some counties in Tennessee, that if you start doing things to the property to improve it, that becomes part of the total that they have to pay. Now, there's some gray area on it. It really depends on, again, we're back to the county, how the county will address that. So you need to make sure. But most importantly, I want to everybody know that I've secured the property. They have to come through me to get it, clean the property up, okay, and make sure the property, the asset is being taken care of. Number two, talk to the neighbors. Find out what's going on with the property. If you want to know what your kids are doing, just ask your neighbors. They'll know what's going on for a fact. So there's that factor. Also, I do what I call a sticker strategy. I'll put a day glow sticker on the outside of the property on a window that's facing the street that has information, warning this property has been sold. Before this property is taken by the government or any other, know your rights. I'll put some language like that in there. And then I'll put a phone number that they can get a hold of me. I just go out and get a Google phone number that they can leave a message or text from immediately. They're probably not going to be the ones that see this, especially if they're dead. Okay, the neighbor knows who knows somebody. So you put this out there, it's like clockwork. The first thing somebody's gonna do is take out their cell phone, take a picture of that, and they'll call, if it's in Tennessee, I'm sure they're named Bobby Sue or Peggy Lou or whatever. And say, hey, somebody sold your dad's or bought your dad's house. Somebody might want to do something. And it's a way to get a hold of these property owners. The next thing I want to do is this, is I want to go ahead and do a skip trace on the property owner to find out. And I'm just going to try to get a hold of them as quickly as possible. Remember, they're not readily available. Heck, they didn't even pay their taxes. And I would call them up or get a hold of them and say, listen, are you planning on redeeming? Now, here's the great thing. If they say no, then say, listen, I have a way that can put some money in your pocket if you just go ahead and meet with me, and I'll show you how to do that. You got to do this in 28 days. Now, the 28 days doesn't really have anything to do with it. It motivates them to do this. So you say, I'll pay you $10,000 cash if you quit claim the property over to me, thus eliminating the redemption period. So they sign all rights over to the property for you. So I think about this for a minute. If I paid $50,000 for this property and the opening bid was only $10,000, there's $40,000 worth of overage in this. So if they signed the property over to me, quit claim it over, I've eliminated the redemption period because I'm not going to redeem on myself, number one. And I want to make sure that they're going to go ahead and assign all rights to the overage. That's that gap between the $10,000 opening bid and the $40,000 or $50,000 that I paid for it, which is $40,000 overage. Here's the secret that most counties don't realize even. Most investors don't. The county's not allowed to keep that money, okay? That goes to the owner, okay? Now, if you are now the owner, you can apply for it, but you need to be careful. Like I say in all my videos, some of the counties will say it's the owner of the property of the day of the sale. Now you're going to have to say, okay, the owner is going to sign the property over to me and all rights to all assets of the property, including overage. You need to identify that directly. So even though at a quick glance, Tennessee, that the fur trappers were in Nashville, you got beautiful music, you got Chattanooga, great barbecue. It's a great place. I've gone on a buddy of mine that's got a boat on a lake there. It's just tranquil. I mean, I can see why so many people are moving to Tennessee, but you've got to understand the nuances of what's going on there. I just outlined what could be a potentially complicated situation, but there's great money in there. Everybody wins. They get a bunch of cash in their pocket. They're signing the property over. You don't have to wait the redemption period. You don't have to go through the foreclosure. I don't think if anybody recognized that. By them signing the property over to me, I've eliminated the foreclosure, so I don't have to go through that process, which saves me money. Now, the only way this works is if there are no existing liens on that property, they're going to get wiped out for this tax sale. Because remember, they're just signing the property over to you, foreclose, and you have to go from there. Okay, if they don't do that, you might be liable for some of this. And this goes back to know your rules, know the process, and you can go from there. So here's the one thing you want to look at with a state like Kentucky. As complicated as that sounds, the more complicated, the more your ears should go up because everybody else is going, I can't do this. Is all you have to do is figure out what little things they've got going down, master that, and this will become a legal way of printing money in your basement, okay? You're buying properties for literally 10 to 15 cents of the fair market value. You go in there, fix those properties up, keep them as rentals, sell them outright, and start providing you and your family with financial independence. Now, some other things that you need to be careful of is make sure you hit the like button. If you don't hit the like button, your redemption period will go 3 times as long. Just kidding. Hit the subscribe button, do all that stuff. But what you need to be careful with is, again, going back to knowing the rules on this. Okay? So every county is going to approach this a little differently. I wouldn't go into the county and say, hey, this property is abandoned. I'm going to go ahead and start fixing the property up because they're never going to redeem. You know what they're going to say? Don't do that. And they would be right. Okay, what I'm saying is secure my asset so that make sure that it doesn't deteriorate more than it is. The other beautiful thing about Tennessee is these sales are happening all the time. So they don't have a particular time of year that they say all of our sales must start in May or something to that effect. So each county can tell you when they're going to have their sales. Number one. Number two is leftovers. Okay, always, always, always find out what the county is doing with their leftover deeds. In other words, it's gone to the sale, nobody's bought the taxes on or the tax deed on the property. Therefore, the county has to do something. That goes into inventory, and they have to do something with the property. The county is not allowed to hold inventory. They would have to push that out. That's where it comes to over-the-counter, struck properties, whatever the county wants to call them. So when communicating with the county, you're going to want to ask them, what happens when a property doesn't sell at the sale? What do you guys do with those properties? They might even say, oh, they all sell. I get you guys are really effective and efficient. I get all that. But if they didn't, where would they go? And you'd be surprised at how many of these properties are sent to another department. So technically, the person you're talking to really feels there's no more properties left because they've all, quote unquote, sold at the sale. So sometimes, using, abbreviations, OTC, stuff like that is not helpful. Just being brass tack basic. What happens to the ones that don't sell? Oh, they all sell. If they didn't, where would they go? I've literally had to spell it out like that in other counties before. So don't trip them up by using lingo from another county. A lot of information here. I'm telling you, I've got a brand new video, free training for you. Just go down to the link down below. It says higginsmethod.com. Click on that and you'll have access to my free training. Just for going through the training, I'm going to send you my new complimentary book, America's Secret Investment Strategy. You're going to love this information. We'll see you on the other side. God bless and good luck.